let me just share how this whole talk got started. I was really excited about a personality test one day, and so I'm kind of a personality test junkie. And so one day I was hanging out with Nate, and I was just talking. He's like, "You should do this as a talk," and I'm like, "Okay." And so that's where this birthed out of. And so I was kind of thinking about, what do I want to really communicate to you guys? And so as I was thinking about this, why does personality matter? And so my heart for kind of communicating what I have today is that you guys would be successful. And I think success kind of grows initially from knowing who we are. And kind of learning how we interpret and engage the world and what our strengths and weaknesses are, and so we can place ourselves in positions to create the most success for our lives and whatever you decide success is for you. We don't need to talk about that. I'm kind of a word junkie. I like words. I like to kind of go back and where did this word come from? What's the actual root word, and where did it mean originally? And so personality comes originally so the root word is persona. And so the Greek and Latin words for persona means mask. And so back in Roman times when they would have their plays, there'd be a guy with a mask that was happy or sad. And that mask was a persona. That's what that was called. And so as kind of personality became to be studied, it started to be realized that it's kind of like the mask that we reveal to the world. And so we've learned more about personality over the time, and it has something intrinsically true about who we are. And so my worldview would speak to who we were created to be. As I kind of got into college and started to, sprout my wings and learn about who Chaz Becker is, I started to learn about my personality, and that's when I became a personality test junkie. And so I've taken plethoras of them. Most of them I hate. And so as we get through them, I'll share kind of the three that I think are solid and kind of should invest your time and money into. But I have 4 points as to why I think personality is important and why we should take some time to invest in knowing ourselves through these and learning who we were created to be. And so the first one is that it reveals how we perceive and determine what is important to us. And so our personality deep down reveals in our lives what is important to us. And if someone does something to us, how we perceive and interact with that. And so ideas and thoughts and actions and political party agendas and all these things bounce off of our personality, where we have this lean towards something. And so for me, I'm not a rules guy. Rules are just kind of there to be broken. So people who just rub me the wrong way is the person who's just straight to the rules, and and they never question the rule and they just follow it for following sake to me. That's my feelings towards that. But that comes out of this personality. So there's one of the tests that I'll talk about is Strength Finders, and it's kind of 36 strengths for the humankind. And one of them is responsibility, and another one is discipline. I have 0 of those as strengths. But people who exude those strengths are very rule-oriented. They're very structured in their life, and I don't fit that mold. So as I started to learn about myself, I realized that I perceive the world, and I find that different things take a higher priority than rules. And as I've perceived that, it leads me to my second point. It helps us interact with the world around us. Because as I know myself and how I'm kind of tilted towards being a rule breaker, and I know that someone else is a rule follower, I can realize that that's not good or bad, but we can engage in that together, and we can find the medium. We can learn to interact with each other and flourish well together. And so I think about this in the workplace. There's some people on my staff team at the University of Toledo who, so it's a Christian organization, and so there's some real legalistic rule followers, and there's to the book, right? And sometimes I'm guys, like, let's hold up, like, time out. Like, we don't have to do the same thing the way we've done it the last 30 years. We can change it up. Just because we've been doing it for so long doesn't mean that's the best practice for today. And because we're a self-aware team, we're able to engage that in a respectable, honorable way, where it's like, I understand where you're coming from. I understand why you want to do it this way, and you understand why I kind of want to like wrestle with it and kind of ruffle up the feathers. But if we didn't know that, that could lead to a lot of conflict in our relationships. And so that's just like one way in my life how I've seen how personality and me being self-aware helps me interpret and engage the world, and also be able to respectfully love others well in the midst of that. So then the third piece is that we learn our strengths. You get to learn what you're good at. And for me, as I started, so growing up, me and my father are very opposite people. And so what I was good at and what he was good at didn't align. And so often I was like, man, I'm not good at anything because I'm not good at what my father did. And as I started to grow up and learn what I'm good at and started to do things that I was good at, I started to experience a lot of success in those things. I started to experience life and pleasure and satisfaction because I was putting myself in positions to do things that I was strong in. And then so we started to learn like what are you good at, and you can position yourself into positions to do things that you're good at. So for me, I'm probably not going to be that good at coding because I'm not like logical, or I don't like to sit very long or whatever. Like there's just like a lot of things in my life that I'm like, that's just not going to be enjoyable for me. And so because I know my strengths, I know that that's probably not the right career path for myself. But I have a lot of ideas that I like code people, so I want to engage. And so that's my weakness. The fourth piece is to know my weaknesses, to know what I'm not good at. And then when I know what I'm not good at, I'm going to have to engage with things I'm not good at. That's life. Life is going to bring things to us that we're not going to be good at. And so when we know what we're not good at, we can create a structure around us of people or organizations or systems to help bolster what we're not good at. And sometimes those weaknesses can become strengths because we've created the system around us to make that really flourish in our lives. And so altogether, I think knowing ourselves, being self-aware people, is going to create us to be in a place where we can be successful. And so as I've been thinking about Code City, and when Nate first brought it up several months ago, and just seeing where it is today, my hope is great for this group. And so what I wanted to bring to the table is that you guys would be successful, that whatever this group, this community goes out and does in the future, that we would be this self-aware community that knows what we're good at. We can build on each other's strengths and weaknesses. We can create those systems, and we can actually be world changers. That we're going to go out from Code City and not the University of Toledo, but the University of Toledo, but the city of Toledo will be a changed city because of this community. And I think that ultimately starts with us knowing who we are, who we've been created to be, and how we live that out well, so that we can engage authentically and honestly with the world around us. And so raise your hand if you're like a personality junkie as well, or kind of know personality tests. So a little bit. Okay, cool. So some of these you may have taken before, but I'm telling you, spend the money on the tests, dive into them, start kind of learning about it, go back to your past and kind of pull up some of the junk from your past and kind of be like, oh man, that I totally see how now I'm this personality based on the environment that I'm from, and take the time to invest, because to invest in ourselves is the best investment. It's the best investment. So here are the three that in order of these are the three in order you should do. So the first one is the Enneagram. So this is probably the least common one on this list, but in my opinion is just so good. It's so sweet. Enneagram. So it's spelled Enneagram. And so this is the oldest known personality test. It actually started in about the 1500s in Catholic monasteries. And modern philosophers have kind of picked it up and kind of bolstered it a little bit, so it's not 500 years ago science. But it's based on 9, so there's 9 personalities, and all the personalities are based on the thing that you fear the most. And so it's this idea that this is what you dislike the most, and so your personality comes out of avoiding that thing, which I love, because what's the word for personality? It's a mask. Our personality is to mask what we're afraid of. And so this one, so for me, I'm a 7, I'm the enthusiast. I like to have thousands of things that I'm doing and tons of things to have fun and enjoy, and as soon as something becomes painful or unsatisfying, I can drop it and have a bunch of more things, because my biggest fear is pain, suffering, and not being satisfied in life. And so I've like created coping mechanisms to avoid that, and my personality plays into that. So that's the Enneagram. So super good stuff. The book is called The Enneagram by Helen Palmer. That's like, there's tons of books, but that's the one I recommend. The test should cost about $10 or so. The next one is Strength Finders. So this is a pretty popular one, created by Gallup. And so Gallup is a research organization, and they went out to find like, what are the traits of successful people? And so they went out thinking that they're going to figure out, like, if you do X, Y, and Z, A, B, C, that you will be a successful leader. And what they found was that successful leaders don't do that at all, but what they really do is they know their strengths and they live through them. And so they've kind of categorized strengths into 36 of them. And you take the test and they give you your top 5. And the top 5 would be your themes. And so these are kind of the things that you live out of most and the things that you'll be able to do best. And so my top 5 are futuristic, maximizer, communication, belief, and adaptability. And so those are kind of the things that I kind of live through. And so as you get to know me, you're like, oh yeah, I totally see that. You're always dreaming of the future, and you want it to be like the best possible thing, and you like to communicate it. You talk way too much, but you really believe that it's going to happen. But in the moment, you can step into whatever is necessary at the time. And so those are my strengths being lived out constantly throughout my day. And so then the last one is the classic Myers-Briggs. And so I'm an ENTP, and so, yeah, I don't have much to say about Myers-Briggs. There's like so much out there for that one. Take the free test, don't pay for that one. There's so much stuff out there for that. And I think collectively, if you kind of study those 3, you're gonna see like, oh man, I'm a 7 in the Enneagram, and I totally see how that like leads me to having these strengths. And that, oh, I see how like why I'm an extrovert. And you kind of are able to pull those together, and you kind of can get this like full picture of who you are. And so my last thing in that is like, don't box yourself in to these things. Personality is flowing and moving, and so these are tools to help give you a picture of who you are. But it's still a foggy picture. It's not crystal clear. And so if you're like, man, I don't agree with that one at all, lower your pride level a little bit and just like kind of dive into it and kind of just observe what's happening in your heart and mind during that. And so, yeah, that's why personality matters, because I think it's essential for us to grow and be successful people down the road. So that's all I got.